What made you never want to watch Pretty Little Liars again? The show had been one of my favorites for years, and I want to tell you about the day I found out my older sister had been using the show as a template for actually doing the things the characters on the show had been doing. My older sister is named Marisol. Marisol is 33. I am 28. Marisol and I had been watching Pretty Little Liars together for years. The show had been one of our shared things. The show had been about 4 teenage girls who had been receiving threatening messages from an anonymous figure called A. The show had been about the architecture of using secrets as leverage. The thing about Marisol was that she had been the kind of older sister who had been quietly competitive with me. Marisol had been the kind of sister who had been smiling in public and undermining me in private. I had been visiting Marisol at her apartment one weekend. Marisol had been not at home for an hour. I had been opening a drawer to look for a spoon. The drawer had not had a spoon. The drawer had had a notebook. The notebook had been not labeled. The notebook had been opened to a specific page. The page had been a list. The list had been names. I had read the list. The names had been friends of mine. The names had been about 15 people. Next to each name had been a paragraph. The paragraphs had been secrets. The first paragraph had been about my friend Ren. The paragraph had been about a specific medical procedure Ren had had at 16 that Ren had been not wanting her family to know about. The second paragraph had been about my friend Octavia. The paragraph had been about a specific incident Octavia had been involved in at college. The third paragraph had been about my friend Cassidy. The paragraph had been about a specific affair Cassidy had been having. The paragraphs had been secrets I had been mentioning to Marisol over the years, as casual conversation between sisters. The notebook had also had a section for each name that included dates. The using had been money in some cases. The using had been favors in other cases. The using had been the kind of small-scale extortion that had been not big enough to make any one victim go to the police, but had been enough to give Marisol a steady stream of resources. The notebook had also had my name in it. My name had a paragraph. The paragraph had been about a specific incident I had been involved in at 22 that I had been not wanting my parents to know about. I had heard the front door open. I had closed the notebook. I had put it back in the drawer. Marisol had walked in. Marisol had been her normal self. I had been processing in real time. I had told Marisol I was not feeling well. I had driven home. That drive is where everything really started. I spent every single one of those 40 minutes replaying what I had seen. It was not the secrets themselves that made me feel the worst. It was the dates. The dates next to each name were organized, spread out, consistent. This was not something Marisol had done once in a bad moment. This was a system. She had built a whole system. She had been running it quietly, on a schedule, like it was a job. By the time I pulled into my driveway, I was shaking. That night I called Ren. I called her because I needed to check on something without making it obvious. We talked for a while, then Ren said something that made the room go sideways. She said, "Your sister asked me to help her move some furniture last month, and then she needed a ride to the airport. And honestly, she called again yesterday asking if I could cover a payment for her. I keep saying yes because she is your sister, but it is getting weird." I held the phone away from my face. The favors Ren was describing matched the pattern in the notebook exactly. Over the next 3 days, I did the same thing with Octavia and Cassidy. Octavia paused and said, "Marisol sent me this really strange text last week. It said something like, 'I hope your boss appreciates everything you do,' with a winky face. I did not know what to make of it, because I knew exactly what to make of it." Marisol was reminding Octavia that she knew about the college incident. That text was not friendly. That text was a leash. Then I called Cassidy. Cassidy got quiet. Then she said, "Your sister has been borrowing money from me. Small amounts. But she always brings up this one topic when she asks, and I always say yes." I sat at my kitchen table and I finally understood what I was looking at. Marisol was actively, regularly, deliberately using these secrets against people. 15 people, my friends, people who had trusted me with the most private parts of their lives, and I had handed those parts to my sister like I was passing her a plate at dinner. That night I sat down and started writing a message. I was going to send it to all 15 people. I was in the middle of my 4th draft when my phone buzzed. It was a text from Marisol. It said, "Hey, did you move anything in my kitchen when you were over?" One of my drawers looked different. My whole body went tight. She knew. Maybe she did not know exactly what I had seen, but she knew someone had been in that drawer. I picked up my phone and typed back, "I was looking for a spoon. Why?" She did not respond. 1 hour went by, then 2, then 4. By the time 6 hours had passed with nothing, I was pacing my apartment. The next morning, I was sitting on my couch when I heard a knock on my door. I opened it and there was Marisol, standing in my hallway, smiling, holding 2 cups of coffee. "Hey," she said, and walked right past me into my apartment. I noticed the way her eyes moved around my apartment. She glanced at my phone sitting on the kitchen counter. She looked at the notepad I had left on the table where I had been drafting the message. I had flipped it to a blank page, thank God, but she still looked at it. "You left so fast last weekend," Marisol said, taking a sip of her coffee. "Are you okay? You have been acting distant." I made myself smile. "I am fine, just busy with work." She leaned forward and put her hand on my knee and said, "You know you can tell me anything, right? We are sisters. We do not keep secrets from each other." I almost laughed. The person sitting on my couch saying we do not keep secrets had a notebook in her kitchen drawer with 15 people's worst moments. But I did not react. I just said, "I know." The second her car pulled out of my parking lot, I knew I could not wait anymore. That night, I called Ren. I told her everything. I told her about the notebook. I told her about her name being in it. I told her what was written next to her name. There was a long silence. Then Ren said, in a voice that was barely above a whisper, "How did she know about that?" "I only told you." "I know," I said. "I told her years ago. I thought I was just talking to my sister. I am so sorry." Ren did not say anything for what felt like forever. Then she said, very quietly, "I am not angry at you. I am terrified of her." After I hung up with Ren, I called Octavia. Octavia was quiet for about 10 seconds and then she exploded. "She has been holding that over me? That is why she kept texting me those weird messages?" I thought I was being paranoid. Her voice was shaking, but it was not fear. It was rage. Then I called Cassidy. Cassidy started crying. "I have been paying her for months," Cassidy said between sobs. "I thought if I just kept giving her what she wanted, she would leave me alone. She told me she would send proof to his wife." Marisol Marisol had turned Cassidy's worst mistake into a payment plan. I was still processing those 3 conversations when my phone buzzed with a group text. It was from Marisol. The message went to me, Ren, and Cassidy. It said, "Girls' night this Friday? I miss my favorite people." I stared at that text and felt something go cold in my chest. She had picked those 3 names on purpose. She was pulling on the leash. She was testing whether our behavior had changed. Then I started reaching out to the remaining 12 people on the list. Every single one of them had a version of the same story. Marisol had kept them all separate on purpose. She had made each of them feel like they were the only one. One of the last people I reached out to was Nicholson. Nicholson was someone I knew through Octavia. When I saw his name in the notebook, it had confused me because Nicholson and Marisol had never been close. They barely knew each other. When I finally called him and explained what I had found, Nicholson was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "I did not even know how she got my information. I have never spoken to your sister directly. She just emailed me one day with details about something that happened to me years ago and asked for a favor. I did the favor. Then she asked for another one." That was the moment I understood that the notebook was not just about power or control. It was about reach. Marisol had built herself a web that stretched further than I ever could have guessed, and every single thread in that web started with me. And then there was my own page. I kept coming back to it in my head. The incident from when I was 22. I have not told anyone what it was, and I am not going to tell you either, because that is the whole point of this story. Some things are yours to keep. When I thought about the years since I told Marisol, I started seeing things differently. Times when Marisol had asked me to do something and I said yes even though I did not want to. Times when she brought up the general topic of my mistake, not directly, but close enough that I felt a little sick every time. She just kept the door cracked open, just enough for me to remember that she could walk through it whenever she wanted. I had mistaken it for sisterhood. A few days after I finished reaching out to everyone, Octavia called me. She had found an attorney who handled cases like this. We set up a call. The attorney listened to everything. When we were done, the attorney said, "What you are describing is a pattern of coercive control and extortion. The amounts may be small individually, but collectively, and with documentation of dates and methods, this is actionable." The attorney started working on a letter that same week. But before the letter was sent, my phone rang. It was Marisol. I picked up because part of me still could not pick up when my sister called. But the voice on the other end was not the Marisol I was used to. It was calm, sharp, like a blade that someone was holding very still. "I know you have been talking to people," she said. "Ren has not answered my texts in a week. Cassidy blocked me. You think I do not notice?" I could not say anything. Marisol kept going. "If you are doing what I think you are doing, remember that I have your page too, and yours is worse than all of theirs." There it was, the thing I had been afraid of since the moment I opened that drawer. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped the phone, but something in me, something that had been building over every phone call, decided right then that I was done. "Then use it, Marisol," I said. My voice was shaking, but I said it. "Tell Mom and Dad whatever you want. I am done being afraid of you." The line went silent. For about 3 seconds there was nothing. Then she hung up. I called the attorney immediately. I said, "Send the letter now." Then I put my phone on the counter and I slid down the kitchen cabinets until I was sitting on the floor. That is where Billy found me. Billy and I had been dating for a few months at that point. He had a key. He let himself in and saw me on the floor, and he did not ask what happened. He just walked over and sat down on the floor next to me, his back against the same cabinets, close enough that our shoulders were touching. Then he said, "Whatever you need, I am here." And I told him everything. When I was done, Billy said, "You are not the one who did something wrong. You trusted your sister. That is not a crime. What she did with that trust is." I had been telling myself for weeks that this was my fault. Billy was the first person who made me feel like maybe that was not the whole truth. The attorney's letter arrived at Marisol's apartment on a Tuesday. The letter laid it all out in legal language. The pattern, the names, the dates, the amounts, the methods. I spent the next 3 days waiting for the explosion. It did not come. And then on Friday evening my phone rang. Her voice was shaking. "You got a lawyer?" she said. "You got a lawyer against your own sister?" "You extorted my friends, Marisol," I said. "You extorted me." "I never extorted anyone," she said. "I asked for favors. People do favors for each other. Relationships do not work by threatening to expose someone's medical history or affair if they do not pay you," I said. There was a pause. Then Marisol shifted. The defensiveness dropped away, and the crying started. "And the thing is, the crying sounded real. You do not understand what it has been like for me," she said between breaths. "You have always been the one everyone likes. People tell you things because they trust you. Nobody trusts me like that. Nobody ever has." Then she said something that stopped me cold. "Do you know what Mom said to me when I was 25? She said she wished I were more like you, her own daughter. She said that to my face. I had never known that. And for a moment, sitting there holding the phone, I felt the full weight of what that must have done to her. I understood for just a second the wound underneath all of it. But then I thought about Ren whispering on the phone that she was terrified. I thought about Cassidy sobbing about months of payments. I thought about Nicholson getting emails from a woman he had never even met. "I am sorry Mom said that to you," I said, "and I meant it. That was wrong. But what you did was also wrong. And those two things are not connected the way you think they are. You did not hurt strangers, Marisol. You hurt people who were close to me, people who trusted me, and you used my trust to do it." The line went quiet for a long time. Then she said, "So what happens now?" "You sign the agreement," I said. "You pay back what you took, and we do not speak for a while, maybe a long while." Another pause. "And if I do not?" she asked. "Then 15 people file against you, and the notebook becomes evidence," I said. "Your choice." She hung up. 4 days later, Marisol signed the agreement. She paid back what she had taken from Cassidy and 2 others. She did not contact any of the 15 people again. That was 2 years ago. I have not spoken to Marisol since. My friendships with Ren and Octavia and Cassidy survived, but they are different now. There is a carefulness that was not there before, like we are all dancing around something we can see but do not want to name. I do not share other people's stories with anyone anymore. Billy asked me once why I stopped watching Pretty Little Liars. I told him, because the show made it look like a game, like being A was thrilling and dramatic. But in real life, it was just my sister in her apartment with a notebook, quietly ruining people's lives for gas money and favors. There was nothing thrilling about it. It was just small and sad sad and mean. He did not bring it up again. I still have Marisol's number in my phone. I have not deleted it. I do not know what that means yet.